Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That is the beauty of DIY. Here at Crafted Nest, we believe every discarded plastic bottle holds a hidden story, a chance to bloom again as something useful, something beautiful, something alive in your garden. From hanging planters to glowing lanterns, each creation is simple, affordable, and filled with possibility. As you watch, let yourself slow down. Feel the rhythm of making, and maybe imagine how these ideas could live in your own backyard. This is not just about recycling, it's about rediscovering joy in the smallest acts of creativity. And if you feel inspired along the way, don't forget to gently tap subscribe. Join the Crafted Nest family, where every idea becomes a seed of transformation. Together, let's keep turning waste into wonder. Observe, imitate, and then modify. That is the simple rhythm of creativity. When you see a plastic bottle, most people see waste. But when you look a little closer and tilt your imagination slightly, you start to notice its hidden potential. A simple cut, a splash of color, a rope tied gently, and suddenly, that empty bottle is no longer trash. It becomes a hanging garden, a floating little oasis swaying softly in the wind. Picture yourself stepping into your backyard on a bright morning. The sunlight brushes across the leaves, tiny shadows dance on the wooden fence, and hanging right above eye level are those little planters you made with your own hands. Inside them, herbs you planted a week ago are already reaching toward the light, and small flowers add cheerful sparks of color. You smile, not because it's perfect, but because it feels alive, a piece of nature rescued by your own effort. The beauty of DIY is not about perfection, it's about presence. When you tie that rope and hang the planter, you're not only saving a bottle from being wasted, you're giving it a second life. Practical, too. Hanging planters save ground space, keep pests away, and make watering so much easier. If you paint them with bright colors, they turn into cheerful accents, bringing energy to a dull wall or a fence. And the best part? Each planter tells your story. A blue bottle from last week's drink. A green one from the family picnic. They carry memories and transform them into life. This is how DIY becomes more than just crafting. It becomes a quiet celebration of what we can create when we slow down, when we choose to see possibility instead of waste. Observe, imitate, and then modify. That is the secret behind every clever DIY. When you take a simple plastic bottle, cut it in half, and flip one part upside down, you create more than just a planter. You create a system, a small rhythm of life, where water slowly rises to meet the thirst of the plant. It feels almost magical, though it is nothing more than a gentle balance of design and nature. Imagine stepping outside on a warm afternoon, the sun spilling golden light across your little garden table. There, lined neatly, are your self-watering bottles. Some hold basil, some mint, others tiny flowers that you rescued from a forgotten pot. You lean closer, and through the clear plastic you see roots stretching eagerly into the water below. No rush, no waste. Just a steady gift of hydration. This is the beauty of a self-watering garden. It asks less of you, yet rewards you endlessly. You don't have to hover with the watering can each day, worried about forgetting or overdoing it. The bottle takes care of the balance. For those with busy routines, this is a gentle ally. Proof that a garden doesn't demand perfection, only intention. And when you make one bottle, you realize how easy it is to make 10 more. A row of green life, each supported by what others would throw away. It becomes more than gardening. It becomes a quiet rebellion against waste, a small reminder that innovation can live in your hands. The charm lies not only in the plants themselves, but in the story they tell, that from what is discarded, life can grow again, steady and full of hope. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. A bare wall is often overlooked, flat, silent, sometimes dull. Yet with a handful of plastic bottles and a little imagination, that wall can turn into a canvas. Each bottle becomes a pocket of life, each row a new chapter in the story of your garden. Suddenly, Emptiness transforms into abundance. Picture this, a quiet morning, the air fresh after last night's rain. You step into your backyard, coffee in hand, and glance at the once plain wall. Now, it greets you with layers of green, parsley, cilantro, and tiny marigolds bursting with color. The bottles, cut and painted, are fastened neatly, forming a rhythm of repeating shapes. There's something satisfying about seeing life grow vertically, as if the wall itself has decided to breathe. Vertical gardens are more than decoration. They are practical companions. They save ground space, making even the smallest backyard feel generous. They invite pollinators closer, attract butterflies and bees that dance between bottles, and they whisper a reminder. Beauty doesn't require expensive tools, only thoughtful hands. Each plant has its own little apartment, its own home in a recycled bottle. And as you watch them grow, you notice how even scraps can create harmony. That's the lesson these walls hold, that what once seemed useless can become part of a living tapestry. The joy isn't only in the final look, but in the making. Screwing in the bottles, filling them with soil, planting seeds with hope. Every small act layers into something bigger, something alive. And one day, when your friends visit, they'll pause at that wall, smile, and say, "You made this?" And you'll nod, quietly proud, knowing that you turned waste into wonder. Observe, imitate, and then modify. That rhythm works not only for art, but also for survival. Water is life in the garden, yet often it slips through our fingers too quickly. Too much, and roots drown. Too little, and they wither. But with one simple bottle, turned upside down and given tiny breathing holes, water learns patience. Drop by drop, it becomes a steady companion for the plant. Imagine kneeling beside your vegetable patch on a quiet morning. Tomatoes stretch upward, cucumbers crawl gently across the soil, and beside each one, a plastic bottle stands like a humble guardian. You touch the soil near the roots and find it perfectly moist. Not soggy, not dry. The slow rhythm of water dripping has been working while you were asleep, while you were busy, while life moved on elsewhere. This is the quiet magic of a bottle drip system. It frees you from worry. No need to rush home with a watering can, no fear of scorching roots on hot days. The bottle does the work faithfully, using only what would have been discarded. A system made of simplicity, yet full of wisdom. And the beauty is how personal it feels. Each bottle carries its own story. Maybe one was a soda from last weekend, another a juice your friends shared. Now they kneel in the soil, serving life with every drop they release. They remind you that caring for plants doesn't need grand inventions. Sometimes the most humble tools become the most powerful. As you watch sunlight glimmer on the bottles and droplets kiss the earth, you realize this isn't just irrigation. It's a gentle lesson about balance, patience, and how even the smallest acts can keep life thriving. Observe, imitate, and then add your own twist. When we look at a plain plastic bottle, it's easy to see only its emptiness. But give it a splash of paint, a joyful red, a calming blue, a gentle yellow, and suddenly, the bottle becomes a pot with character. It is no longer just a container. It is an expression of playfulness, a fragment of your own personality shining in the garden. Imagine a lazy Sunday afternoon, brushes scattered on the table, your hands speckled with paint. You cut the bottles, smooth the edges, and begin coloring without strict rules. Some lines are neat, others wander. But that is the beauty. Imperfection makes it alive. By the time the sun dips lower, your garden corner is transformed. Rows of bright little pots smile back at you, each holding a story. When you place marigolds, basil, or even small succulents inside, the colors come alive even more. A yellow pot cradles green mint, a sky blue one bursts with pink flowers. The contrast sings like music. Every time you walk past, you feel a small lift in your chest, as though the garden is laughing softly with you. Painting pots is more than decoration. It's meditation. It slows your thoughts, brings you into the moment. Children love it too. They dip their brushes, make wobbly shapes, and suddenly the garden becomes a shared canvas of family memories. And perhaps the most inspiring part is this. Each colorful pot was once destined for the trash. Now it brings joy, holds life, and tells anyone who sees it that creativity doesn't need a grand budget. It only needs a willingness to see beauty where others see waste. Observe, imitate, and then modify. A plastic bottle may seem silent, but with a little care, it can sing. Not with notes of music, but with the flutter of wings and the soft chirping of birds. By turning a simple bottle into a bird feeder, you invite life into your garden. Suddenly, your backyard is not just yours. It becomes a meeting place for tiny travelers of the sky. Picture a bright morning, the sun gently rising, and your garden still damp with dew. Hanging from a low branch, a bottle sways softly. Its clear body is filled with seeds, and soon a curious sparrow lands, tilting its head before dipping into the opening you cut. Another bird follows, and then another, until the air is stitched with small, quick movements. You stand quietly, holding your breath, watching nature accept your invitation. The joy of a bird feeder is not just in its simplicity, but in what it gives back. It costs nothing more than a bottle, a string, and some seeds, yet the reward is endless. Birds bring music where there was silence, energy where there was stillness. They help scatter seeds, they keep insects in balance, and more than anything, they remind you that kindness attracts life. And every bird that visits carries a different story, a robin resting on its journey, a finch searching for its flock. You start to notice their patterns, their songs, even their tiny rivalries. It becomes a quiet ritual, standing at your window with a cup of tea, watching the feeder sway, feeling connected to a world beyond yourself. This is what a humble bottle can do. Turn waste into wonder and silence into song. Observe, imitate, and then add your own touch. The idea is simple. Take a plastic bottle, cut it, and place it gently over a small seedling. Suddenly, you have created a little world of its own, a greenhouse in miniature, where warmth and moisture gather like a quiet blessing. Imagine crouching beside your garden bed on a cool morning. The air still carries a bite of last night's chill, but inside those tiny domes of plastic, life is pulsing forward. Droplets of condensation sparkle on the clear surface, each one catching the light like a bead of glass. Beneath, the seedling stretches safely, guarded from harsh winds and unexpected cold. It is a fragile thing, yet it stands stronger because of the shelter you gave. There is something deeply satisfying in watching growth happen under your care. A greenhouse bottle dome is more than just protection. It is a gentle reminder that nurturing does not need grandeur. With what others would throw away, you create a space where life can thrive. And it teaches patience. Day by day, you lift the bottle to check the soil, to breathe in the earthy scent of progress, and then place it back like a guardian. Soon, the seedling grows tall enough to outgrow its shelter, ready to face the open air. That moment feels almost like letting go of a child's hand, a mix of pride and tenderness. DIY gardening is full of lessons like this. By reusing what is simple, you craft spaces of quiet magic. And with each bottle dome, you see clearly that nature does not need much to flourish, just a little warmth, a little patience, and the shelter of your care. Observe, imitate, and then modify, and suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. With just a collection of bottles and a bit of patience, you can create a spiral tower of herbs, a living sculpture that brings flavor, fragrance, and beauty into your garden. Picture yourself on a sunny afternoon, stacking bottles in a gentle curve, one layer at a time. The spiral takes shape slowly, like a green staircase reaching for the light. You fill each pocket with soil and sprinkle seeds of basil, mint, or rosemary. Within days, the first tender leaves appear, curling upward as though they recognize the care that brought them here. There is something magical about a spiral. It feels natural, echoing the patterns of shells, galaxies, and unfolding ferns. When you build one with herbs, you're not just planting. You're joining a rhythm older than yourself. Each step of the spiral receives light differently. The top sun-drenched, the bottom more shaded. This means every plant finds its perfect place, just as in nature. And the joy doesn't stop at beauty. Every time you cook, you can walk outside, brush your hand against the fragrant leaves, and gather what you need. A sprig of mint for your tea, a handful of basil for dinner. The spiral becomes both art and pantry, both garden and inspiration. What makes it special is how humble it begins, a pile of discarded bottles, forgotten and unwanted. Yet with a touch of imagination, it transforms into a tower of life. And as you water it, tend to it, and watch it grow, you realize this. The garden is not just about plants. It's about how you, too, can take small, overlooked things and turn them into something that nourishes and inspires. Observe, imitate, and then give it your own soul. A border may seem like a small detail, yet it shapes how the garden feels. With recycled bottles pressed gently into the soil, what once was waste now becomes a frame for life. Suddenly, the edge of a flower bed is no longer rough or forgotten. It becomes a line of order, a rhythm guiding your eyes across the colors of your plants. Imagine a soft afternoon, the sunlight bending low, painting everything with gold. You kneel by your garden bed, arranging bottles one by one. Some are left clear, catching light like glass, while others you paint in bright tones, red beside yellow, blue beside green. Slowly, a border forms, not perfect, but full of charm, like beads strung along the earth. The beauty of bottle borders is both aesthetic and practical. They keep soil in place, protect tender roots, and mark pathways so you step carefully. And because they are upright, they almost glow when morning dew or raindrops settle upon them. Children love to trace their fingers across the tops, as if each bottle is a note in a garden's quiet song. There is also a deeper satisfaction here. Each bottle once held a drink, a memory, perhaps laughter at a picnic or a shared toast at dinner. Now, instead of ending in a landfill, it stands guard at the edge of your garden, holding the story of both past and present. This is what DIY offers. Not just solutions, but poetry. You take what is simple, what is overlooked, and you let it carry beauty again. And as you stand back, looking at the neat edges glowing under the sun, you realize that a garden is not just grown, it is framed with love. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Even the night can bloom with creativity. A simple plastic bottle, once empty, becomes a lantern when you slip light inside. The transformation is almost alchemical. Suddenly, what was once ordinary glows with a gentle fire, scattering warmth across the garden like little stars fallen close to earth. Picture the moment. Twilight settling, the sky painted in shades of violet and deep blue. You walk into your backyard, and along the fence or path, soft lights begin to twinkle. Each bottle glows with its own personality. Some are painted in bold reds and yellows, casting a cheerful aura. Others are left clear, their light pure and calm. The air feels different, alive with quiet enchantment. The charm of bottle lanterns is not just in how they shine, but in what they create, an atmosphere. They turn an ordinary night into a space for gathering, laughter, or peaceful solitude. You sit with a friend, sipping tea under their glow, or perhaps alone with a book, listening to the night insects sing. And the process itself is simple, yet rewarding. A cut here, a wire there, a tiny LED or candle placed inside. What could have been waste now becomes an invitation for people, for joy, for stories whispered under soft light. The lanterns remind us that light doesn't have to be grand to be beautiful. A garden doesn't need expensive fixtures to glow. With a few bottles and a bit of imagination, you can craft magic that touches the heart. And as the night deepens and the lanterns sway gently in the breeze, you realize, sometimes, the smallest creations shine the brightest. Observe, imitate, and then modify, and suddenly, a bottle becomes more than a container. It becomes a vessel of innovation. With just water, nutrients, and a little imagination, you can grow plants without soil. What once held soda or juice now holds life in its purest form, roots floating, leaves reaching, growth happening in silence. Picture stepping onto your balcony on a bright morning. A row of bottles rests neatly on a wooden shelf, each one filled with water enriched with nutrients. Clear plastic reveals the secret, white roots spreading like delicate threads, drinking quietly. Above, lettuce, spinach, and basil burst into shades of green, fresh and vibrant, swaying gently in the breeze. It feels like science and art have joined hands. The beauty of a bottle hydroponic system lies in its simplicity. No heavy bags of soil, no messy digging. Just clean water doing the quiet work of nourishment. It saves space, reduces pests, and teaches you how little is actually needed to sustain life. Even in the smallest apartment, a wall of bottles can become a garden of abundance. And it is not just practical, it is inspiring. Watching plants grow this way reminds you that nature adapts, that life always finds a way, even in unexpected places. Each bottle is proof that limitations can spark creativity. When friends visit, their eyes widen at the sight of roots floating in water. They ask, "Can you really grow food this way?" And you smile, breaking off a fresh leaf of lettuce for them to taste. The answer is there, in their surprised expression, in the crunch of something grown from nothing more than a reused bottle and a bit of care. Observe, imitate, and then modify, and sometimes the result is pure magic. A cut here, a little paint there, and suddenly a plastic bottle becomes more than a bottle. It becomes a tiny house, a lantern, or even a castle for a world that lives in imagination. This is the charm of fairy garden decor. It transforms not just plastic, but the very way you see your backyard. Imagine kneeling beneath a shady tree on a calm afternoon. Around you, bits of moss, smooth pebbles, and small flowers create a soft landscape. In the center, little houses made from bottles glow with color. Some have painted windows, some tiny doors carved carefully, and a few are strung with beads that sparkle in the sunlight. You pause and smile, because in that moment the garden feels alive with invisible guests, winged fairies hiding between petals, watching quietly. The beauty of a fairy garden is not in perfection, but in wonder. Each bottle you upcycle carries its own story. Maybe it once held soda at a picnic, or juice shared during a family meal. Now it becomes part of a magical village, a place where children's eyes widen and adults remember the dreams they once had. And the best part is how it draws you closer to nature. Decorating with moss, shells, or tiny plants slows your pace. It invites you to look carefully at details. The curl of a fern, the shine of a dewdrop. You're not just decorating a garden, you're weaving a story into it. As twilight falls, you light a small candle inside one of the bottle lanterns. The glow spills softly, and for a moment, it feels real, as if the fairies have come home. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Sometimes the most practical solutions come from the simplest ideas. A plastic bottle, punctured with tiny holes and fitted onto a hose, transforms into a sprinkler. Suddenly, water doesn't pour in one heavy stream. It dances across the garden in countless drops, refreshing plants and cooling the air. Picture yourself on a sunny morning. The soil feels dry beneath your feet, leaves droop slightly in the heat. You twist the tap, and from the bottle at the end of your hose, a spray of water fans out. Droplets glitter in the light, arching over the garden bed like a rainbow in motion. The thirsty plants seem to sigh in relief, their leaves lifting as moisture kisses them. This little invention is more than just convenience. It saves time, covering more ground in less effort. It saves water too, distributing it gently so the soil absorbs rather than floods. And it costs nothing more than what you already had: an empty bottle, a bit of creativity, and a willingness to see usefulness where others see trash. Children love it as well. On hot afternoons, the sprinkler becomes more than a tool. It becomes joy. Laughter fills the garden as they run through the arcs of water, hair dripping, cheeks flushed with happiness. The bottle, once discarded, becomes part of summer memories. And when evening comes, the garden tells the story. The plants stand taller, the soil is nourished, and you realize that something so small has created balance. DIY teaches us this again and again, that resourcefulness is not just cleverness, but care. A bottle sprinkler is proof that with just a touch of imagination, you can give both life to your plants and joy to your days. Observe, imitate, and then modify, and suddenly, chaos finds its order. A simple cut in a plastic bottle, a nail through its side, and what was once clutter on the ground becomes neatly arranged on your wall. The bottle, in its second life, is no longer just a container for drinks. It becomes a keeper of tools, a silent helper in your gardening routine. Imagine stepping into your shed or garden corner on a bright morning. Instead of searching through a pile of tangled tools, your eyes fall on rows of bottles mounted neatly. Each one holds something different. Scissors here, twine there, gloves folded gently in another. Sunlight streams across the wall, catching the edges of the bottles and making them glow faintly, like humble lanterns of order. The beauty of this idea is its simplicity. No expensive organizers, no complicated systems. Just a little time, a little care, and the willingness to reuse what you already have. It saves space, keeps everything within reach, and adds a touch of creativity to a place that's often forgotten. And there is something satisfying about seeing your work tools displayed this way. Each bottle has a story. Maybe one once carried water during a hike, another soda from a late-night chat with friends. Now they stand lined up, holding the instruments that help your garden grow. DIY often teaches us to see potential in what others overlook. A bottle can be a pot, a lantern, or even a humble tool holder. And when you take that extra step to organize your garden, you're not only saving time, you're creating a space that feels cared for. Because order, like a well-tended garden, is a kind of beauty too. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Sometimes the smallest creatures remind us how important every detail in nature truly is. A plastic bottle, once empty, can become a sanctuary when filled with bamboo, straw, or pine cones. Suddenly, it's not just trash. It's a hotel for pollinators, a resting place for butterflies, bees, and other helpful insects. Picture a sunny afternoon, your garden alive with color. Flowers open wide to greet the day, and near them hangs a bottle you crafted. From a distance it looks simple, but when you look closer, you see movement. A bee buzzing inside, a ladybug crawling over the bark, a butterfly resting lightly on the rim. The air hums with quiet life, and you realize your little creation has become a shelter. An insect hotel is more than decoration. It is a partnership. Insects pollinate your flowers, help control pests, and keep your garden's ecosystem in balance. By giving them a home, you give back to the very world that makes your garden bloom. And it costs so little, just a bottle, some scraps of natural material, and a bit of your time. Yet the reward is endless. Over the weeks, you notice more bees visiting, more butterflies fluttering, more balance in the small world outside your window. It feels like your garden is speaking back to you, whispering gratitude in every bloom. DIY has a way of connecting us to the cycles we often forget. With every bottle you hang, you create not just a craft, but a gesture of care. And as you watch the sunlight strike those tiny wings, you're reminded that life thrives when given even the humblest shelter. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Sometimes beauty comes from guiding the steps we take. A simple plastic bottle, painted or left clear, fitted with a small light inside, can transform into a gentle lantern. Placed along the edges of a path, they create not only light but atmosphere, turning an ordinary walkway into a story waiting to be walked. Picture this: twilight settling over your backyard, the last hints of sunlight fading. As you step outside, the pathway glows softly, each bottle shimmering with its own quiet light. Some glow golden and warm, others painted with colors that scatter faint hues onto the ground. The garden, once hidden in shadows, now feels alive, inviting you to wander. The magic of bottle pathway lights lies in their dual nature, practical and poetic. They guide your feet safely, showing you where to walk, yet they also create a sense of wonder, like stepping into a secret garden. Children love to follow them, hopping from one glow to the next, while guests pause to admire the unexpected beauty of recycled bottles reborn as lanterns. Crafting them is simple, yet deeply rewarding. A bottle, a cut, a brush of paint if you wish, and a small LED tucked inside. Each one carries a memory, perhaps a drink once shared with friends, now lighting your evenings with quiet dignity. And when night deepens, the lights don't just illuminate the path. They remind you that even discarded things can shine again. Every glow is a whisper of creativity, every step guided by the soft radiance of your own making. It's not just a path you walk, it's a journey made brighter by your imagination. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Even the simplest act of kindness can ripple through a garden. A plastic bottle, reshaped and hung with rope, becomes more than just a craft. It becomes an oasis, a tiny pool where birds can pause, drink, and refresh their wings beneath the open sky. Picture a warm afternoon. The garden hums with life, the air filled with the rustle of leaves and the distant chirp of sparrows. From a tree branch hangs your creation, a bottle transformed into a small basin of water. A bird lands gently, cautious at first, then leans forward to sip. Another follows, splashing lightly, droplets scattering into the air like tiny diamonds. For a moment, the garden feels like a sanctuary shared between you and the creatures that visit. The beauty of a hanging bird bath lies in its simplicity and generosity. It asks almost nothing of you, just a bottle, some string, and clean water, yet it offers so much to those who need it. In summer, it's a relief from heat. In spring, a place to gather. In every season, a reminder that life depends on small acts of care. And for you, it brings joy. Watching birds bathe and flutter adds movement to the stillness of your backyard. Their visits weave your space into nature's wider story, making you not just an observer, but a participant. Each bottle bird bath tells a quiet tale, once destined for the trash, now serving as a wellspring of life. It proves that creativity is not just about beauty, but about connection, a bridge between what we discard and what the world still needs. And as the birds return, day after day, your garden hums with gratitude in wings and song. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Sometimes the plainest canvas waits quietly for you to notice it. A fence may seem like nothing more than wood or wire, a boundary between spaces. But with a collection of plastic bottles, scissors, and paint, that fence can bloom into a gallery. Each bottle cut, reshaped, and colored becomes part of a bigger picture. Wall art that brings your garden alive. Imagine standing in your backyard on a sunny morning. The fence that once looked dull now bursts with color. Bottles sliced into petals form giant flowers, their centers painted gold. Others are cut into spirals or geometric shapes, arranged in patterns that catch the eye. As sunlight passes through translucent pieces, they glow like stained glass, scattering soft shades of red, green, and blue onto the ground. It is more than decoration. It is a reminder that beauty can be born from what we throw away. The bottles carry their pasts, soda shared at a picnic, water sipped on a long walk, and now they tell a new story, woven together in color and form. The process itself feels playful. cutting, arranging, stepping back to see the design take shape. Each choice of color adds personality, and every imperfect edge adds character. Soon, your fence is no longer just a boundary. It is an expression of your creativity, a joyful greeting for anyone who visits. And the best part is how it changes your garden's mood. Children laugh as they spot familiar bottle shapes hidden in the art. Guests pause to admire the ingenuity, and you feel the quiet pride of having turned waste into wonder. In every glow of sunlight through plastic petals, your fence whispers that creativity can transform even the simplest spaces. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Even what seems like waste can circle back into life. A plastic bottle, cut and perforated with small holes, can become a compost bin in miniature. It doesn't require a large pile or a fancy structure. Just a clear container where scraps of the kitchen and garden quietly transform into nourishment for the soil. Picture yourself rinsing vegetables in the kitchen. Carrot peels, lettuce ends, and bits of fruit find their way into a bowl. Instead of tossing them aside, you carry them to the backyard, where your bottle compost bin waits. You slip the scraps inside, layer them with dry leaves, and close the cap loosely. Days later, you peek inside. The process has begun. The scent of earth rises, warm and organic, and you realize nature is at work, unseen yet steady. This small act turns the cycle full circle. The waste that once left your home now stays, returning to the garden as rich, dark compost. Your plants drink it in, their leaves growing stronger, their flowers brighter. And all of it began with a simple bottle, once empty, now filled with renewal. There is a quiet beauty in watching transformation happen. Children are fascinated. They see how yesterday's scraps become tomorrow's nourishment. For you, it becomes a ritual of care, a daily reminder that nothing in nature is truly wasted. The compost bin may be small, but its impact is wide. It reduces trash, enriches soil, and connects you to the slow rhythm of growth. And each time you sprinkle the finished compost around your plants, you feel a deeper bond with your garden. Because DIY is not just about making, it's about giving back, letting the earth breathe again through your hands. Observe, imitate, and then modify. Sometimes creativity is not just seen but heard. A plastic bottle, cut into slender shapes and strung together, becomes a wind chime. It sways gently, catching the breeze, and every movement releases a soft melody. What once was silent waste now sings in your garden, weaving sound into the air. Picture a calm afternoon, the sun dipping low, light filtering through leaves. You sit quietly on the porch, and above you, the chime begins to stir. A soft clink, a gentle whisper, as if the wind itself is playing. The sound is not sharp or perfect. It is tender, imperfectly human, like laughter carried through the air. And in that moment, the garden feels alive, not only with color but with music. The beauty of bottle wind chimes lies in their dual gift, decoration and song. Painted in bright shades, they catch the sunlight, scattering colors onto walls and soil. Strung with beads or shells, they tell stories with every shimmer. And when the wind arrives, they speak in a language of rhythm, a reminder that nature and creativity are always in conversation. Crafting them feels like meditation. You cut, paint, thread, and tie. Each piece carries memory, perhaps from a drink shared with friends, a family picnic, a quiet night. Now they hang together, voices in harmony. When guests visit, they pause, tilt their heads, and smile at the sound. It is simple, but it lingers. DIY teaches us again and again, beauty does not need to be silent. With just a bottle, you can gift your garden both light and song. And as the wind passes through, you realize it's not just air moving, it's life itself, singing softly at your doorstep. Observe, imitate, and then add your own heart. A beginning is always a fragile thing, a whisper of what's to come. And what better way to cradle a new beginning than in something given a second chance? The bottom of a plastic bottle, once the foundation for a drink, becomes the first home for a tiny seed. In this small, humble space, a whole garden waits to be born. Picture a quiet morning, the air still cool. You sit at your table, a row of clear bottle bottoms before you. You fill them with soil, dark and rich, and press a single seed into each one. It is an act of trust, a pact with the future. You water them gently, and then you wait. The waiting is part of the magic, a lesson in patience that the garden always teaches. And then, one day, you see it. A speck of green pushing through the soil, a tiny life unfurling toward the light. There is no feeling quite like it. In that moment, the recycled bottle is no longer just plastic. It is a nursery, a cradle, a testament to potential. You watch the seedlings grow stronger each day, their roots visible through the clear sides, a secret map of life drawn in white lines. This is more than just starting seeds. It's a reminder that even from the smallest, most overlooked things, life can emerge strong and full of promise. And when the time comes to transplant them into the garden, you're not just moving a plant, you're releasing a story that you helped begin, a story that started in the humble base of a bottle.